Good evening, everyone. Welcome to a Nutters Call In on a Friday night. Got an absolute stellar cast joining me. We've got the two big wigs from the Asylum, Steve and Matty. Zico has kindly joined us, and also, I see it's getting even better. We've got Ryan from New Zealand and head of the Prediction League, Joe Kennedy. Evening, all.
Hello.
Scheduled this one just for a little bit of a ramble, to be honest with you. There's some decent fights coming on this weekend. There's been some stuff in the boxing news that's kind of worth discussing, should we say? We'll kick it off. I know, obviously, Steve and Matty, you probably had your say around Cameron and Taylor. Matty, actually, we'll start with you first. Stephen, any change on your thoughts of Cameron against Taylor for tomorrow, or are you still maintaining that you think you went for Cameron, didn't you, again?
Yeah, I just look at it as they're fairly similarly skilled, except Cameron just is coming in doing it as the bigger, stronger, younger, fresher fighter. So it's Katie's going to need to pull one out of her back pocket if she wants to make a little bit more history on Saturday night. And I just can't off the first one. I really think that, honestly, I think that a draw is more in play than a Taylor victory. That's just my opinion. But we'll see how it goes. That's what makes the great ones great, is how they come out back off of a loss. I would love for Katie to prove all of us wrong, but I'm not feeling it.
Yeah, no. I personally, I think it's going to be a really tough one for Katie, and to be honest with you, I'm kind of wishing her the victory in this one, purely on the basis that it'd be great to see her just go at the top, go out with a bang. Obviously, we've got Joe Kennedy, who's a fellow countryman. Joe, I mean, she's done wonders for the sport of women's boxing. She will, obviously, regardless of what happens, retire a legend for female boxing. Any last hope of a W on her record for tomorrow night?
Yeah, I think it's probably more wishful thinking than anything you can really go by in terms of evidence from the last fight. And we've kind of said for a while that Taylor as a fighter is probably on the slide as well. She's had a big amateur background, a lot of miles on the clock there. And I think that, she's probably, since the Serrano fight, you could probably chart a pretty steady decline in her. And even probably before as well, if you looked at it closer, the couple of heavy fights per soon, just a lot of miles on the clock in general. I think her style as well, once the athleticism starts to go, I think it starts to tell as well. So I think it's an uphill struggle for her again against a fighter who's probably closer to her peak in Chantelle Cameron. So yeah, I think it's more wishful thinking. I've stuck a couple of quid on the draw, 12-1, historically low price, shows you which way the bookies are thinking as well. So yeah, I think that's probably as best you can hope for going off of the last fight.
Yeah, I agree. Zico, obviously your thoughts on this one. I mean, Cameron is, if I'm mistaken, obviously Cameron gave her the option to come down to light to fight for the belts there, but obviously Taylor didn't want to take that. So rinse and repeat again for you, Zico.
I think it is for me. I mean, the last time around, I don't want to be kind of after timing it, but I did kind of fancy Cameron just to be, as other people have pointed out, just too big, too young, too fresh. I think that Katie Taylor has had a long career, amateur and pro. It's probably just got to the point where she's a wee bit over the hill and probably has been for the last maybe year or two. So it wasn't a shock to me the last time that Cameron kind of bossed the fight, and it was maybe a bit more of a shock that she got the win, given the circumstances, the big comeback, the fact that Taylor's the big star. But things get done right in terms of the decision that night, and I don't see much different this time. In terms of the weight divisions, I've got to be honest, I'm not a big expert on what weight division they're both in, but to me, Cameron looked a good bit bigger than Taylor. I don't know how much difference it would make if it was a different weight, but it's not a different weight, and I don't see much different this time around. I'd love to see Taylor kind of roll the clock back. Remember being on here talking about when it was Golovkin and Canelo for the third fight, saying we all think Canelo's going to win, but maybe Golovkin's going to produce one of those performances that great fighters can produce, just at the kind of dying of the light stage, and that's what Taylor's going to need to do. For me, it's going to need to be one of the kind of heroic performances of women's boxing to kind of roll the years back and get some sort of result. That's how I see it, and to be honest, I don't think it's going to happen.
No. Steve, I want to come to you with this one. Taylor's been in some absolute wars. Obviously, she went life and death with Pursoon twice. I think she lost one of those, if I'm going to be brutally honest on her. She had the absolute, probably the best fight of women's boxing we've seen so far with Serrano. She's, to put it politely, I mean, she was always going to slide down anyway. I felt that, you know, that in those tougher fights, she has looked not average, but like she's looked like they're on a level. Like it wasn't like she was always superior to those people. Is that going to affect her legacy at all, or just people look at her as potentially like the proper or the second woman of boxing or third woman of boxing if we count a couple of other greats that they're knocking about years ago?
I think her legacy's in two parts, to be honest. I mean, she'd probably not give two hoots about what's going on outside of Ireland and the way people view her. I know she has a big American presence as well, but I think she's done enough now to secure her legacy, really, which is why I was a little bit frustrated. I know I'm going to have to let it go, sound like a broken record, but I just cannot understand why they didn't give her a bit of a patsy for this Irish homecoming. Not someone who's going to completely fall over, but Chantelle Cameron was a tough out, really, and was Eddie looking to not cash Katie out, but maybe use her name or something to push Chantelle forward because she's younger? I mean, that type of thinking has to come into play for me, because I cannot understand why they didn't give Katie the sort of opponent that she deserved. She's a talented fighter, but she's also very gutsy as well, has a good engine on her, and just wasn't able to get over the line in the first fight. I said on Sunday evening that I think this fight will be pretty much a carbon copy of the first one. I think Chantelle will win by a narrow margin on points. I was looking on the bastion of boxing conversation early on LinkedIn, as it happens, actually, on British Boxing News. They had an article up. Katie Taylor reveals she has changed her game plan for the Chantelle Cameron rematch. It's going to be a completely different fight to last time. And someone put in the comments below, Cameron is too big, too strong, too skilled to lose the rematch. Katie Taylor will do well to survive the 10 rounds. I think she will survive the 10 rounds. I don't think she'll get stopped, to be honest. It's 10-2s as well. But as for her legacy, I think it's secure in Ireland. Everybody loves her. I've seen her fight a couple of times myself, once as a pro against Cindy Serrano, actually, and as an amateur on a couple of occasions on the undercards back in the day. But Katie's secured her legacy as it is. And I'm looking as well, just quickly, at the next generation who are coming up, Danny. And I love a nickname as well. I was having a look down the super lightweight division there, and coming in at number 14 in BoxRec, we have 4-0. Yes, she's at 14 and she's 4-0 from Hemel Hempstead, Nicola Bark, a.k.a. the Burmese Python. But I'll raise you one. At number 5 from Kenya, we have Sarah Achieng, who's 16-2, and she's the Angel of War. So I think with those two coming up, the future of the super lightweight women's division is safe.
Well, I got to say,
the Angel of War is badass. Come on.
I was going to say, if we don't hear a full discussion about those two on Chicks with Digs anytime soon, I'll be a bit disappointed. So
just to jump in quickly, that I remember the corner for that Cindy Serrano fight was a disgrace. She got the shit kicked out by Katie Taylor, and I think it was her husband or her boyfriend or something was the coach.
Yeah,
and he was just pitiless with her in the corner. He wasn't giving her any instructions, just setting her out to get the shit kicked out.
She got battered, didn't she? Katie even done a bit of showboating that night as well.
Yeah. It was early on in her career. I remember. A lot of eyes were on her.
I'll open this one up to any of you. Can we read anything into Katie not agreeing to Cameron coming down the way? Is that pure worry, or is it?
So,
She,
no,
I suppose if she wants one more fight, at lightweight, I'd say just to defend that. I'd say that's probably your thinking there. That if she lost the belts now, that'd be it, done, road over. She doesn't have another run to get the titles back in her.
I think it's twofold. I think one is that it's easier, obviously, for her to make 140, and two, I think her motor's running out a little bit. If you kind of look how she's looked in the later rounds recently, a little touch and go, and also just the way that she's so reluctant to even talk about doing a 12-3s match, even after Serrano had one. So I see doubts about her and her motor there. So I think those extra 5 pounds, she worries about them a little bit.
Yeah. Well, good luck to Katie. I mean, if she gets one tomorrow night, then fair play to her. She's got to come in with one hell of a game plan because Cameron's a much more powerful, bigger boxer as we see in the first fight. So yeah, I look forward to watching that one tomorrow night and see how she gets on. While we're on women's boxing, I would like to discuss.
Hey, quick heads up. It looks like Charlo has weighed in overweight for his fight with Benavidez. And in his second attempt, he came in 0.2 ounces heavier than his first attempt.
He went to McDonald's to take some weight off.
Wow.
Sad state of affairs in Las Vegas, friends.
Well, does it surprise you?
He was a good bit over. He's like 3 pounds over or something as well. Like it's not cheap, change. Like
I am gonna, like, right now I'm gonna go lay a bet on Benavidez if this fight even goes forward, because the fact of the matter is, like, how interested in boxing is Charlo? Is he just there for a paycheck right now? I mean, it would seem to be that way. His personal life is shit. Hasn't been in a ring for nearly 2.5 years. Something's fucked up, man. I think that, after the disinterested nature of his brother against Canelo too, and the money that he made from that fight, I think that the best of both Charlo brothers is behind them.
People were saying he looked like he was on medication, like if you're, antidepressants or whatever, which you wouldn't want to be fighting if that was the case. So that's what slows down your reactions and all. Like, you'd be like you're basically a handicapped fighter.
What happened to the good old days when fighters would come into the ring on cocaine? I don't like this new world. Nothing about it is good.
And then it all goes away.
See the Charlo that's fighting tomorrow night. Has he made enough money to kind of take his eye off the ball? Like I don't
think so, man, because I think both of them guys like to kind of live a flashy lifestyle. And even though, real estate is a lot less expensive in Texas, so, they're not necessarily blowing as much on their homes and stuff like that, I don't think either is responsible. And if you look at the fact that their girlfriends or wife and girlfriend or whatever were going at it in the parking lot during the Crawford Spence fight, I mean, I don't think women that are that crazy are very responsible with their money either. I just think both of these guys are chock full of bad choices.
And guys that are with those women are not responsible themselves.
Well, I like that line in As Good as It Gets when that gal asked me, it's like, how do you write women so well? And he says, well, I think of a man and I take away reason and accountability.
So, Matt, to sum it all up then, Matty, what you're saying is it's worth a couple of quid on Benavidez Jr. tomorrow night then? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I mean, it would seem like it. I mean, if the dude is this disinterested, it's definitely worth a punt. But you have to wonder if the fight will even go forward at this point in time. Benavidez is a bit of a G, though. I bet he doesn't give a fuck. He'd be like, give me an extra 100K and I'm going to go in here and beat this motherfucker's ass.
Some sort of deal will get done there for sure.
Well, we look forward to that one. Sorry, just going back to what I was going to say. So, sticking on the women's boxing theme, obviously, I did want to talk about and get people's opinion on our good friend Alicia Baumgardner, with obviously the news today.
Sorry, Danny, did you not see her tweet? No.
Oh well,
she cleared this all up.
I saw the T-shirts today, so that's what's made me want to talk about it. To be honest with you, mate, because she's got T-shirts, obviously. forgive me if I'm wrong here. Was it Vindicated written on the t-shirt? You could get your Alicia Baumgardner Vindicated t-shirts now. I got to be honest, right? And again, I'll open this question up to anyone, right? Do you just think now? Are we living in we're living in a day and age now, right? Where obviously people can identify as whatever they want nowadays, and apparently we've got to sit there and accept it. Yeah. Do you think that this is boxing's version of that, where you can just basically take drugs and then kind of come out and just say, no, I haven't, and then well, just it's almost like tell yourself, oh, I definitely didn't do drugs. Oh, there you go. There we go. That's it. Case closed. No problem. Move on. Because we've had it twice now in a short space of time, and it's embarrassing. I can't think of anything worse than you know what I mean? Just it's almost like it's like, when you get one of the lads down the pub and they like cheat on their missus and then they tell themselves that they didn't do it, and you're like, no, you definitely did, lads. You know what I mean? Come on. Like, it's fucking unreal, like, honestly. And then to release a t-shirt about it is just,
well, I mean,
bizarre.
She must be next level of denial, or she's innocent. But I mean, I was talking to one of the boys off the air, and they were saying that apparently she vindicated herself by having a test or something that didn't even test for the things she was caught for, and all these other things. But I mean, she has gone to absolutely ridiculous lengths. But yeah, maybe you can just identify someone who hasn't taken PEDs. But that's boxing for you. It's the absolute Wild West, as we know, and as we've seen with Jarrell Miller, and I don't want to pick on Paul Jarrell again, but all these different fighters, you can just get back in the ring whenever you want. And I mean, if Alicia thinks she's innocent, then who are we to disagree?
Steve, you keep going on Jarrell Miller. Are we going to have to give him the tagline of leave him alone? Do you know what I mean? It's, leave Tony alone, leave Miller alone.
It's clear playbook now, isn't it? It's this, turn it all into a victim kind of mentality that Conor Ben did as well,
But that's what I'm going back to, using obviously what I'm experiencing in real life. It's like everyone's got an excuse or a reason to just come out with crap. Like, I find it so bizarre. Are we expecting her to be boxing anytime soon? Then are we? Now that she's cleared herself?
I think there's enough of a grey area, isn't there, and enough sort of ambiguity, and the rich kind of bullying the poor, and there's different governing bodies and different sort of sanctioning bodies and all this, that you can sort of front up people and say, prove that I haven't done it. Fuck you. I'll send all this information in. I'll muddy the waters. I'll blur everything as much as I can. I'll turn up at a show here where I can get licensed, and you can see it out. You can bully and see the whole thing through.
Again, it's just so bizarre. I mean, I look forward to seeing what comes next, because I mean, will it be a record next? A song about it, or I don't know, an advert? Who knows? But yeah, anyway, we'll see what happens. But
how did the t-shirts measure up to the Asylum t-shirts in terms of quality, thread count?
I don't know, mate. I think, to be honest with you, if she'd thrown it my way, I could have made it a little bit better, to be honest with you. So put it this way, she won't have men crawling all over her with those t-shirts on, so don't worry about it.
That's the problem I have.
Right, we'll move on. Obviously, there's as you alluded to earlier, we've got the card in America tomorrow night. Obviously, topping the bill, Benavidez versus Boo Andrade. Ryan, we haven't heard from you yet, mate. Are you okay? You all good down there in New Zealand? You alive? No. He's being interfered by the GAD. We aren't. Ryan? No, Ryan?
Have you got me?
Just about, yeah.
I'm in now. I'm in. Yep, yeah. All good over here.
Good man.
What's the question? Sorry.
So, well, the question for you is, obviously, the fight tomorrow night is intriguing, as the boys spoke about it on Sunday on the pod. Benavidez, for me, I think is just the bigger, more powerful dude, and I just think he'll wear Andrade down. And I can only go off, obviously, the performances that I've seen so far of Andrade, where he hasn't looked particularly spectacular. He's obviously, the basics, the fundamentals are there, but he's nothing that gets me excited. So, with that in mind, Ryan, who do you think's got more plastic in them? A Smith's Toy Shop or David Benavidez's missus?
Yeah, she's definitely put used to some of those PBC paydays, but yeah, they won't be
She's
coming
enjoyed
back
herself on the
anytime soon,
table on the
so
slab, hasn't she?
yeah, get it in while you can. I don't know if the Amazon Prime money's going to be the same, but yeah, it's quite an interesting fight because Andrade's done nothing at the weight, and everything that he has done so far is underwhelming, but he's still one of those fighters you can see the potential and you can see the quality that he does have, but he seems to have that quality for a few rounds and then fades, which kind of works into Benavidez's favour because you see from Benavidez his offensive output from 2 or 3 years ago seems to have slowed down and the footwork is almost there. But I think Benavidez needs you to tire to look his best. And the way I see the fight going is, yeah, kind of a cagey start. And then I expect, I put it in one of the comments, but I think Andrade will hurt or maybe even drop Benavidez rounds 3 or 4 with one of those crouching overhand lefts. I think he'll really hurt Benavidez with something, and then he'll let him off the hook and possibly get stopped. Yeah, we haven't seen it from Andrade where he's been hurt or anything like that, so I wouldn't be betting on it. I'd be really betting a close-ish Benavidez points, but yeah, that's how I see this fight going.
What time would that be on for you out there, Ryan?
Oh, that'd be sort of afternoon, early evening sort of time now. Yeah, it's good for fights here now. We've got the daylight saving, so I'll get the English stuff at the end of the morning, and yeah, during the afternoon I'll get all the American stuff.
Zico, it sounds like we all need to get to New Zealand to watch our boxing these days, eh? If we want to get Benavidez and Andrade at just like early afternoon.
Like a reasonable hour, I'm sure you would get it in New Zealand. I know that in Glasgow it's going to be a fucking 5 a.m. job, and I've not got it in me. In times gone by, I would have been there. I would have stayed up, or I would have got up. But I've got things on tomorrow that requires a whole day of drinking. So it's definitely not going to be me. But
Well,
what's
sorry,
that?
Matt. I was going to say, what's your take on the fight then, mate?
Well, I was just about to get to that. You know, I'm building the atmosphere here.
Sorry, mate.
I kind of think it's going to be more competitive than the bookies have it. I think Andrade's about 3-1 or something like that. I was kind of on the Liam Williams hype train a few years ago. I thought Liam Williams was going to really ask some questions of Andrade, and he just didn't. You know, Andrade kind of handled him barely without breaking sweat, and that kind of got me paying attention to Andrade. But since then, he's never really got the big fights. He's never got the big occasions. But I kind of feel that this time, like, you know, I don't want to call Benavidez a plodder, right? Because he's not a plodder. He's not stiff. He's not kind of one dimensional. But he does have that wee kind of plodding tendency in him, I think. And for the first half of the fight, I think, as has been mentioned, I think Andrade is probably going to cause some problems. I think he's going to be a bit slippery, a bit awkward, a bit difficult to grab a hold of. And if he can maintain that past the halfway point, it's going to be really interesting. For me, it's probably quite a competitive fight, and it's one that I'm really interested in. Really looking forward to it. I'm going to have to watch it Sunday morning. But
I was just looking, mate. Yeah, you get 3-1 on Andrade to win at the minute.
That's it. I mean, I think for me, it's a lot more competitive than that, and you know, we'll probably find out. You know, is whoever comes out of that, whether it's Andrade or whether it's Benavidez, he's the man to be asking questions of Canelo. Whether it's slippery, awkward questions for Andrade or kind of pressury, kind of work rate questions from Benavidez. But yep, whoever comes out on top of that, I'm quite keen to see how they do against Canelo.
Yeah.
But yeah, looking forward to it.
Agree. Mr. Kennedy, again, as I say, I think Benavidez wins this fight. I'm not too sure about the KO, but then again, I haven't really seen Andrade, as I think Matty alluded to on Sunday. I haven't really seen him get hit by anyone with any kind of actual power. If it does if we do get a Benavidez win, he's got to be calling for that Canelo fight, right?
Yeah, especially with Canelo at PBC with 2 fights left in the deal or whatever, you'd expect that to be next, and then maybe the rematch be the third. Yeah, you'd have to think he's thinking that. Yeah.
Are you thinking then Benavidez will blast through Boo-Boo, or? Yeah,
I do. I don't expect it to be. I expect it to be initially kind of cagey, but I think Benavidez's style is going to be tough for Boo-Boo to run away from for 12 rounds. He throws a lot of shots and he throws in between shots. He's actually got really fast hands as well, and he's got that kind of lasting power. He's like just naturally kind of heavy-handed, but very quick hands as well. Can let off combinations really quickly. I just think he'll be too much for Boo-Boo. He'll probably make a mug of him maybe for 1 or 2 rounds, but I think eventually Boo-Boo's lack of activity, his lack of fighting top quality guys for years and years and years, I think will take it. So I found myself thinking it was going to be super competitive as well, and potentially backing Andrade. But then I don't know, just thinking back on Andrade, I always just thought he was, when he was a champ at 160, especially when he was just hanging on to that title, fighting nobodies like Dennis Hogan and Jason Quigley and all. It was a nothing fighter. It was wasted his prime, and now he's at the tail end of his career. You really expect him to go up 8 pounds and beat the second best guy in the division.
Well, this is the thing. He's 35 years old now. Sorry to interrupt, but don't know how much you can hear this because it sounds a little bit crackly.
No, we can hear Zico. Come on.
Oh, you can hear me, right? Well, Andrade's 35 years old now, which kind of shocked me when I looked at it earlier today.
Yeah, he looks well, to be fair. Now, he looks like he doesn't. But you hear the stories that Matty was talking about on the pod, which would be.
Oh, he's a baby merchant.
Guys, I hate to jump in, but I just posted a link in the chat. This is very germane to the conversation. The ring size for Saturday night is 20 feet.
Oh, so as suggested, Matt, you reckon there'll be a lot of running around, do you?
A lot less. 22 is standard for Vegas fights.
There we go.
Okay, right. Okay.
Yep.
20's not tiny though. I mean,
I was going to say the 20 doesn't seem that small, does it?
Seems smaller rings than that.
I don't think that Benavidez or Andrade can stand in front of Benavidez and just trade with him and expect to out-slick him or something like that. If that happens, I expect Benavidez to be too much and just overwhelm him. So you think that the only way Andrade is going to beat him is on the foot, is on the back foot and just moving around, and I just can't see him doing that for 7 rounds, beating them, and then managing to hang on for 5 rounds. Like Benavidez is a young champion; he's going to be huge in the ring compared to him, I think, as well. Come fight night, throwing his bombs, getting into his combinations. I think unless Benavidez has a really bad night, it's a tough one for Andrade.
Yeah. Steve, play devil's advocate for me. How does Boo-Boo win this one? Like, I mean, is it anything to suggest that he could do something spectacular? Who's he working with trainer wise? I couldn't even tell you, to be honest with you. But yeah, is there any way you can pull this off?
Rosier. Sorry, Sammy.
Who was that? Sorry, Joe.
It's the trainer, it's your man Rosier, isn't it?
I think his dad does the training, and apparently Virgil Hunter's been involved as well behind the scenes. I'm not sure about Andre Rosier, but that could well be the case. I don't know.
Okay, so how can Boo-Boo win this, Steve? Come on, break it down for us.
Well, I mean, it's not beyond the realms of possibility that Boo-Boo can win it. I mean, he's a very skilled fighter after all. He's very talented. I mean, I think we all agree with that. He's just a very awkward guy. He can't stay on the ropes for any extended period of time. He's got to throw within the shots between David Benavidez's shots, which is easier said than done. Plant had a lot of success, wasn't able to last because Benavidez walked him down. Ronald Graville dropped Benavidez and pushed him relatively close. I think it didn't really warrant a rematch as such, but it was an easy fight to make. But people have found gaps in the arsenal in the past. Ronald Ellis lasted longer than we thought against Benavidez. He is an absolute monster, but he is there to be hit as well. Andrade was a good amateur. He fought Keith Thurman 3 times. Thurman could not get past him. It was at least 3 times, maybe 4 times, and Andrade beat him every time. Old Queef just couldn't manage to beat him, and he slowed down a lot. That's the only thing. He's 35, as Joe mentioned. He's been fighting your Quigley's, your Keelers, your Seleki's, your Akovovs, and all these guys around his prime. And now he's going to have to go in against a young, hungry beast who's on the way up. Could Benavidez be struggling at the weight? Possibly. Could he catch him with something half decent? He could do, but then Benavidez is the kind of guy who loves a fight. He loves getting down and into the trenches, and when you hit him hard, he seems to revel in that, and he's explosive too. People paint Benavidez as this zombie guy who comes forward like a sort of mindless Margarito who's throwing a lot of shots and not taking bombs in return. He can put his shots together really well. He's clever. He'll throw that left hand to the body when behind Andrade's southpaw guard as best as he can. He'll break him down physically, but he can box as well, and he'll hit him with explosive shots. So there's a lot more to him. I think Andrade's very conservative, doesn't like getting hit. But what I'm saying is it's not beyond the realms of possibility that he wins. But as Zico mentioned the Liam Williams fight there, Andrade kept hitting Williams with hard shots constantly. And towards the end of the fight, he wasn't really hurting him. He couldn't put him away. He couldn't or wouldn't. Korkondaka was another one. There's no way that fight should have gone past 3 or 4 rounds. So if he's really conservative against these kind of guys, what's he going to do against Benavidez? Vanes Martirosyan got to him, dropped him. Alantes Fox dropped him. Damon Nicholson definitely buzzed him in the last fight. Can't remember if he dropped him or not. We know Andrade can do a lot of different things. He can come forward and fight you. He can fight you off the back foot. But ultimately, he's going to go into his shell. And I just think he's just waited for too long. He can beat Benavidez, but I think Benavidez will just catch him, and might be points actually. But towards the end of the fight, I think Andrade's going to be holding on. He's going to be running. He's going to be grabbing. It's going to be. It could get ugly at times, but Benavidez for me ultimately will win the fight.
Yeah, Matty, Steve brings up something interesting there. So I remember the Liam Williams fight, and obviously Williams was in good form up to that, leading up to that fight. Obviously, I remember him. He had a back like an aircraft carrier. He was, and he was obviously knocking people out silly. He got into that fight, and although he obviously just didn't turn up and do anything, it was just looking at Andrade in that fight, and I was just thinking to myself, a better boxer in that situation loses that fight, because he just wasn't showing. He wasn't showing enough to be great, if that makes sense. And that's I suppose that's my biggest concern about the fight tomorrow night.
I think that Andrade kind of fights the level of his competition to some degree or another. But you're talking about a 35-year-old guy at this point in time. He's been boxing for, a quarter century at this point in time. You take back his time in the amateurs. And he's coming in against a young guy who, unless he's, weight drained at this point in time, which he's got a big frame, you never know, is going to come in there and he's going to pick up steam throughout the fight. And he doesn't always throw big looping shots. He throws those little short, kind of arm punchy hooks inside, but he leverages them on everything he throws somehow. And I think this is one of those fights where you're going to see Andrade look good. You're going to see him look as good as he ever has through probably the first 5 or 6 rounds. And the tides are going to start turning somewhere after that. Where, I don't know. If Benavidez is going to be able to do enough to wear him out and put him down, I don't know. I think that's the lean. I've been watching the odds kind of widen out a little bit. Thought they originally kind of tightened towards Andrade, not like got close, but he was inside of 3-1, and now he's outside of 3-1 in most of the books I'm looking at. So just my hunch is that Andrade's going to look great the first half of the fight, and then just going to start getting worn down. And if he makes to the final bell, you never know what could happen on those cards if he's banked away enough early. But I'm thinking Benavidez is going to stop him late, and you might be able to see some live action on that one, because I think that Andrade's going to just be piling up the points early.
Can I just add quickly, Danny, as well? I think that and I don't think Andrade will go easy, because it might not mean much in the context of things, and obviously opposition's king and who you've been fighting and moving up through the weights, etc. I don't think he looks as good as super middleweight as he did down at middleweight, that's for certain. But he hasn't lost in 15 years. That's a long time. He has not tasted defeat. Like, he's not a guy who's lost 3 or 4 and it's easy to sort of say, oh, things aren't going my way, I'll take the payday, I'll go. He hasn't lost since the Olympics in 2008. 15 years is a long time. So I don't think he'll want to give up that record that easily, which I think it makes him a little bit more dangerous than people might give him credit for, even though I don't think he'll win ultimately.
See, on that subject, Steve, like, I kind of mentioned the Andrade fight against Liam Williams, and you kind of brought up the fact that he beat the shit out of Williams in the first half of the fight and then kind of eased off.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe that's a kind of symptom of it, Maybe he's used to doing enough and then just slacking. Because that Liam Williams fight, he was all over him in the first half of the fight, and then come the second half of the fight, Williams, who probably shouldn't have been in it, kind of did come back into it.
Buzzed him a wee bit in like the 9th or 10th, didn't he?
Totally,
if you remember.
He had his moments second half of the fight after getting an absolute shellacking the first 5 or 6 rounds. So I don't know, man. There's just something about it that makes me wonder. Like, from a prediction point of view, I would say, yeah, it's hard to go with Andrade, but with from a betting 3-1 shot point of view, I'd think maybe he's going to make it a wee bit more awkward. But we'll see what happens. But it's a good fight, I think.
Definitely potential there, isn't there, for it to be interesting. But obviously, whether it happens or not is only time will tell.
It'll happen. There's money on the table, man. It's going to happen.
There is one fight that I'd like someone to talk about, and it ain't going to be me, because I've got no idea of his opponent. Because I've got to be honest with you, I don't think I've ever heard of him. And looking at his record, I don't think I know any of the fighters that he's fought. Matias is fighting. Is that the chief support? I believe, isn't it? Yeah. Will it be Charlo?
Oh no, I think Charlo Benavidez is chief support. Sorry.
Okay, well, let's put it this way: the second best fight on the night will be Matias versus Ergashev, yeah?
Best fight, I think it'll be, yeah. Shorazhan Ergashev, yeah.
Steve, tell us about this Uzbek guy, because I got to be honest, up until I saw him on there, I've got no idea of him.
Yeah.
What's his caliber? Is he good or?
Well, I can't say I'm any great expert on him either, but he's one of these ones, as I say before, the names sort of all mold into one, and you think, oh, yes, I do remember seeing him do X, Y, and Z, and I've watched a bit of footage of him, and I think it's going to be an absolutely brutal fight, this. He does square up at times, but he is a bit of a shithouse too. In the fight I saw, I've seen 2 fights of his, but in the one, it was against, let me see if I can find the guy's name. Was it Veron or was it Estrella? Oh, I don't know. It doesn't matter anyway. He's fought Michael Fox, which is a recognisable name on his record, and he went the distance with him, which is interesting. So maybe it's a suggestion that the right caliber of fighter can mess him about. Fox is a very conservative fighter, though. Fights off the back foot. I didn't see that fight.
The one he's 6'2".
He's 6'2", like Alantes, his brother. He's absolutely massive. But the guy I watched him in against, he hadn't got a prayer, and Ergashev just teed off on him. He was showboating. He was loving it. He's fought on Showbox in the past. That's where I've seen him. As for Matias, he's not here for a long time. This guy's here for a good time. It's going to be an exciting career while it lasts. And the matchmaker for this one has Wellington levels of violence, because there's going to be guaranteed bloodshed. I think it's going to be the fight of the night. I'm looking forward to it. And I hope Matias gets a proper title shot after this as well. And they don't just keep matching him for bloodlust until he fights someone who can handle him or knocks him out. Because as I mentioned in the Nutters chat, eventually he's going to go against somebody who's going to be able to take his shots, and he's just going to melt. He's got 19 wins, 19 KOs. He has been beaten in the past against Petros and Anyan, but then I suppose he had other things on his mind, obviously, because it was a couple of fights removed from the Dadashev fight. Our referee's going to get tetchy when they see him. He's a bloodthirsty fighter. He likes knocking people out. A guy has died at his hands, obviously nothing to do with him personally in the past. I wonder whether referees might look and say, you know what, this guy's a serious fighter. He makes people retire as well. Malik Hawkins, retired. Batajan Jurkanbayev, good fighter, retired. Petros Ananyan in the rematch, retired. Jeremiah's Nicholas Ponce went absolutely hell for leather with him for the first 4 rounds. In the 5th round, his dad said, fuck this, retired. This guy beats people, and I hope they don't just say, right, let's find someone else who's going to stand toe-to-toe with him. Eventually, he's got to get a decent shot at somebody. If Rolando Romero can get constant shots, then I want to see Subriel Matias get one as well.
So it's interesting you brought up the Jurkanbayev fight, Steve, because I think that if people are looking for a reason, why should I back this 3-1 underdog in Ergashev? I think you should go to the Jukumbayev fight and look at Jukumbayev did hurt Matias at multiple points in that fight.
Yes.
It was a pretty all action affair that was fairly close. There was a knockdown in there in that round. I think might have been the real separation in it. And then Jukumbayev just didn't have anything after the 8th round, but he did hurt Matias on a couple of occasions. And Matias being a taller fighter, they tend to end up a little bit chinny if you're lanky at the weight. And if you're looking at Ergashev and Jukumbayev, they're very similar in their build. They're kind of short, squat southpaws of that are built out of that old Soviet school. So I would look at that fight, and to say that there's definitely a reason Matias is a wide favorite, but Ergashev does have the tools to beat him if given.
Yes. Sorry, Matty, just to clarify, Danny, as well, I don't want to hog the floor, but regarding Matias, when I say a big shot and a big chance, obviously he picked up the vacant lightweight IBF title when he fought Ponce, so he's a world champion. But I mean, like, unifications and shots against the big guns, rather than someone just picking off because he's taken too many shots.
Yeah, no, I get that, Steve. I mean, it sounds like it'd be something worth sticking about for, to be honest with you, or at least setting the alarm early to get out for.
I think it's interesting as well. Just I think. Well, I can't remember a fighter that's been trained by Sugar Hill Stewart for I don't know. I think he's been with him for his entire pro career, 4 or 5 years. So I haven't seen much of this kid at all. So I don't know what. The only barometer I have to go off Sugar Hill is kind of the limited amount of time he's had with Tyson Fury, and that's about it, really. So it'd be interesting to see what his what someone's like who's been under his tutelage for a significant period of time.
Well, I've not seen that much of Subriel Matias aside of his last fight, which was pretty fucking good. But that preview from Steve Wellings there was fucking epic, man. I'm right up for that. I'm fucking right up for this fight now, man. And by the way, see this cunt he's fighting? He's probably not that bad. I'm sure he's going to have a go. Seems to be I think he's a puncher as well. I think he's about 17 knockouts and 17.
I think it'll be like the Ponce fight,
23.
Zico. I think they'll stand, Yeah.
Yeah, oh, fuck yes. It's going to be worth watching that. I mean, like 40 minutes ago, I was saying, nah, man, I've got all day drinking tomorrow. I'm never going to make that, but do you know what? Maybe I'm going to make it now, man. That's it, mate. I'm gonna have to struggle some things.
It's not the only one though.
We'll
come to this obviously probably later, but Vicente as well and Lipinets Rivera. I think they could be. I think this is the best show, probably the best card of the year. This until the day of reckoning. Yeah,
quality, absolutely.
Passing it over to someone who's probably going to be watching it with their cornflakes. Ryan, talk about anything on that card, mate. Feel free.
Yeah, I was just saying what Steve was saying about Matias. There's kind of parallels with him and sort of Jared Hurd and that sort of that stand in front, arms up style. That he can look unbeatable. It's just that all it takes is somebody just to stand, throw some winging hooks, body head, and they look a different fighter. Then as soon as you get that breach, they suddenly start to unravel. So yeah, I'm up for this. I'm open. I don't think Matias is gonna really beat like the top guys that you see, but the top guys at 140, they seem to have 2 or 3 years ago, they're kind of gone by the wayside, and yeah, it seems just not sure where he would fit in the division, but giving me fights like this any day of the week, that's what you want to see, and yeah, praise be to Uncle Al for putting it on.
Listen, if he's the B-side, then it's a tremendous fight. That's the way I look at it.
Yeah, it looks like it's going to be good. Anyone open it up to anyone? Does anyone else want to talk about any of the other fights rather than me just going through it individually?
I can quickly, very quickly, Danny. I have to get this out of my system. So, Hector Luis Garcia, interesting to see what the tank fight took out of him, really. He's going in against Lamont Roach, who's quite a back foot fighter, but he does put it on late on in the fight. So if he can hang around, Garcia did have a few problems late on with his stamina against Roger Gutierrez, I think it was, in that fight. And Tank hit him that hard, he said he couldn't see. So hopefully he's got his vision back in time for this one. So that's a decent little fight. Lipinets against Michel Rivera. Rivera got soundly outboxed by Frank Martin. He was a bit of a prospect at one point. He did the old Ali shtick. You know, he had the hair done and the shorts and all, but he was on PEDs, and so he's got a slap on the wrist for that. And he really couldn't do anything with Martin. I'm hearing a lot of love for the Lipinets stoppage, actually. I've gone points in the prediction league. I think Rivera's bubbles burst. His career's on the line as well if he loses, because Lipinets has lost before. We know enough about him to suggest that he'll get more chances if he loses again. And there's more on the line for Rivera, because we'll really see where he's at if he loses the 10-rounder. So I'm going for Lipinets on points in that one. And as for, what was the other fight? Oh, yeah, Pablo Vicente. He's 23-1 against Mohamed Yakubov, who's 20-1. It's a mandatory fight, this, for the right to challenge Oshaki Foster. Foster has already beaten Yakubov before. Vicente, he's a Cuban based in Panama. I've never seen him fight before. He has 2 nicknames, though. I love a good nickname. The Judge is one of them, and the Cuban Menace. So he'll be maybe the favourite. I don't know. It'd be more interesting if Vicente wins, I think, because we've already seen Yakubov getting outboxed by Foster out in Dubai. But I think Yakubov is a bit more seasoned, a bit more experienced, better names on his record, so he's probably the pick. But I'd like to see Vicente win, as I say, just to mix things up a bit. And because Foster will probably box rings around the both of them. But I mean, this is the depth of the card. There's so many fights to get up for, and that's not even mentioning the untelevised portion or the lower level. Vitel Manicki's going in there. Daniel Blancas, he's David Benavidez' sparring partner. Moton as well, the Mayweather guy. There's a lot to do here.
There's a lot going on there, Steve. Indeed. Am I the only one who thinks that? Because I've had to Google it, right? Sergei Lipinets is only 34 years of age. Is it me, or does he seem like he's been around for absolutely fucking ages?
He is.
He's been fighting in big fights basically as long as we've known him, or not necessarily big fights, but top level competition.
Against big guys, Matty, as well.
Yeah. I mean, what he fought, like his 12th or 13th fight, I think, was against Mikey Garcia. Then he went up 147. He fought Ennis up there. Then he whacked Figueroa. Now back down at his natural weight. We don't know how Rivera is going to look a weight class higher. We don't know how he's going to look without the juice. I'm pretty curious in this fight. I think it's going to be on like the free portion. Maybe you guys can pick it up on YouTube or something, you know, if the PBC is doing it over there. But I almost think that it'll probably be about an hour and a half after the conclusion of Taylor Cameron when this will kick off for the hardcore among us.
Well, I've bought myself a few cans of the Danish lager. Is it Fax? Is it? I believe it is. And they're like 2-pint cans. So there's a good chance I'll be staying up anyway.
No chance you'll be out pissing every 5 minutes on that stuff, Donna.
Oh, mate, I'm not. My bladder hasn't gone yet. My brain might. My bladder hasn't yet. So wonderful. Well, I look forward to that. Steve got it riled all up. Zico's got the pizza on order already. This is going to be a fucking marvelous.
It's going to be shit now, isn't it?
Oh God, gone are the days where Mr. Wellings was bigging up fights and they were ended up being pants. Not anymore, Steve. Though you've turned things around. Fair play to you. So
thank you.
That's all right. Joe, did you talk about anything on the card there, mate? Sorry, I didn't know if we missed you out then at all. Or...
No, go on. I think we summed it up pretty well, yeah.
Yeah, okay, mate. No worries. Where am I at now? To be honest with you, I mean, apart from that card tomorrow night, there isn't really much else aside from that. But again, that's good. That's good, fair for me anyway, that card. So I'm looking forward to that. I literally, has anyone else got anything to kind of discuss? I mean, the Zico. Sorry, Zico, you.
Yeah, just the Saudi card. Again, I'm sounding awfully crackly here. So
yeah, you are sounding a bit muffled there, mate.
Is that any better now?
If we all mute apart from Zico and see if that does anything.
Yeah, see that. Go on.
Everybody else mute. Or yeah.
How's that? Oh, that sounds a bit better from my end.
Better, mate. Go on, crack on.
Yeah, there we go. Right, just the Saudi card. See what people are thinking about that. As I'm kind of looking at it, it's a kind of strange sort of It's not a card of mismatches, but it's maybe a card full of competitive lopsided fights. By normal standards, we've got quite a few kind of interesting kind of chin strokers. Obviously Joshua against your big Swedish compadre there, Joe
Wallin.
Kennedy. Wallen, yeah, your man there. I mean, that's a fight that you would
My
probably make Joshua a favourite, but Wallen's probably capable of the upset. You know, maybe a wee bit less so with Wilder and the big Kiwi character. But it's a kind of card that probably the top 3 or 4 fights there, you would all have a look at and think, I'm going to watch that. You know, for me, the kind of most intriguing fight is Daniel Dubois against against Cheryl Miller, which I think is a kind of certainly in the kind of Nutters group chat, it's kind of split people down the middle. For me personally, Cheryl Miller is fucking shite. And Daniel Dubois is going to launch him into another dimension. But it's a kind of weird fight that's brought 2 people from 2 totally different dimensions together. And Daniel Dubois just maybe isn't quite capable of handling the kind of verbal stuff from Jerry Miller. But it's definitely a fight that I'm looking forward to. And even the rest of the card, as I say, the one that's what's the boy from Manchester that's up against the Aussie kind of wild man?
Oh, Zorro, is it?
Sorry.
No, not Zorro.
Lyndon Arthur, you mean? Sorry.
Yeah, Lyndon Arthur.
Bivol.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. Oh, sorry, I'm getting them mixed up here. Lyndon Arthur, I like Lyndon Arthur. Like I think it's kind of went a kind of strange way from him. Kind of winning a somewhat dodgy fight in the past against your man. Oh man, I'm fucking pissed here, but like I like Lyndon Arthur. I think he's a kind of good, sort of solid fundamental fighter, and maybe he can put up a better kind of performance than people are expecting. But
You're talking about when he beat
Against
Yard,
Bivol.
aren't you, mate?
Yeah.
well, I didn't want to say that, but that fight against Yard was somewhat iffy for me. Like the first fight, it was in the middle of lockdown, kind of strange time period, fighting in Eddie's back garden, and it went how it went. And then we had the rematch that went really differently. There was rumours about kind of contractual situations and things like that. Don't want to say exactly how it went, but you know, it was a kind of odd one. But you know, there's a lot of good fights in that card. There's kind of interesting things that might happen, so I'm quite looking forward to it.
I got to be honest on this card. I'll say my bit. I did say in the Nutters chat at one point. I said it's a card full of fighters, but with the wrong fights. I'm going to have a stab at it now. So if I'm looking at it, obviously what you'd want is Joshua versus Wilder. So if you remove those 2 from the conversation, I'd probably then put. I'm looking at it. I'd probably put Dubois with Ergashev, but purely on the basis that, like, I think they're both at that kind of level, whether we like it or not. Like,
That would be good, yeah.
I think obviously they're both where they're at in their careers right now. I think, not suggesting that's a 50-50 fight. I think Dubois wins that fight, but I think it just clears something up, if you know what I mean. Those kind of like those on the kind of fringe of joining kind of some of the elite. I would have Wallin against Joe Parker, because I think, again, that's a name that Wallin could win, could win. And then obviously you'd obviously dig up Demore to fight Miller, because obviously Miller's not interesting to me. So any other takes on that? Or
I've got one. I've got one quickly. I was going to ask Ryan about this actually as well, to make things more interesting, to give Jay Opataya more of a challenge. Which of the 3 heavyweights would you fancy him to beat? In fact, Ryan, he might even beat all of them. From like down under, prize fight, Australian, New Zealand prize fighter, Jay Opataya against Joseph Parker, then he fights Junior Farr, then he fights Mark DeMore. I think he'll give him a chance against all of them, to be honest with you.
Yeah, he beat Junior Farr. Junior Farr got cracked by Lucas Brown in the last fight. He might get stunk out against Joe Parker. Joe Parker's, we've seen him enough now. Do we need to see him that much more? I mean, he can get banged out of Wilder, as Ozzy would say. Yeah, I like Jaya. I don't know why they put him in with Zara, especially after his gimme against Jordan Thompson. He absolutely smashed shit out of him. I think this is a card. You were saying fighters in the wrong fights. I think this might be a bit of a double dip. They've kind of all got together and they've probably said we'll all have sort of winnable fights and then the winners will fight. And I think it just kind of gets all the A sides a payday. And then, yeah, I think it's probably a bit more political, this card, than maybe it seems on the outset. 'Cause it seems like Eddie's fighters are in kind of shit kind of like Ergashev versus Mark DeMore. That does nothing for him. That's just, he can't win in that fight. So he knocks him out in the first round. It's, he fought a guy out of his basement. And then if he goes past 2 rounds, he's going to start saying, Ergashev, what are you doing? Again, Bivol, why is he fighting a British level guy when he's just beat Canelo? It seems like he's just been frozen out, really. And the zone can't really send him a name, and you've got Callum Smith fighting Viterbia, which has tied those two up. So maybe it just keeps him paid and on the platform, really. And then, yeah, who else is on that card, really? AJ versus Wallins is kind of the main one that's going to get us talking, because I think AJ, if you look at AJ, and if he couldn't speak English, you'd be saying this is a guy who pushed music reasonably close. He's got good attributes. He's probably just missing that one thing that really elevates him. But I think he's going to stop Warren late. I think nice body shot, hook upstairs. But I think he'll be down in that fight. I think he'll lose a few rounds, and there'll be a bit of an issue, like 6-7 rounds in. It'll start to look like he's down on the cards and maybe slowing up a bit. But I think he's got the tools to get to Wallen, really.
I think it's funny what they're doing with some of the fighters, isn't it, as well? I know it's politics is all involved in that, but you got like Daniel Dubois lost to Joyce. Dubois has been sort of pushed on and he's got this opportunity. Bivol had the greatest 2022, beat Canelo, beat Zerdo. They've been inactive for 13 months now, which is an absolute crime. Opataya had that great fight with Bradis. Maybe they're thinking about the jaw. The fact, the Thompson Zorro sort of easing back in. I don't know. Maybe I'm giving them too much credit. Caballel beat Chisora 6 years ago, done nothing since, going in against Makhmudov. Sanchez had the performance of his career against F.A. Ajagba, and ever since then they've frozen him out. And you could argue Ajagba's probably further on out of the bunch. And Ergashev has been sitting on the IBF manager for about 3.5 years now. He needs to sack off Sauerland and them, and he's fighting DeMore. I sound quite negative, but I'm actually looking forward to the card, especially the fact it's before Christmas. A bit of a buzz, we'll have a post-fight pod and all that. But, I mean, there are some questionable kind of choices, aren't there, about the matchmaking? But as I think it was Ryan said, maybe the fact that we've got Eddie and Frank sitting at the table, maybe the Saudis can bring them together. It's like some kind of world peace. This will be better for next year. We'll maybe make the bigger fights now that we've got them at the table together.
I think there's no doubt at all that this has all been lined up with a view to having winners fighting winners and losers fighting losers. Like, so I'm sure somebody earlier on said that Walling against Barker would be a good fight, which it would be a good fight. But Joshua and Wilder are being lined up to fight guys that are not going to beat them. Like, this is how it's going to be, and it's going to get sorted out in February. Like, the way that the money is, the way that kind of the lack of opponents are, there is no way that this is not getting brought to a head, given how things are in Saudi Arabia. Now, I don't know how you feel about kind of fights being in Saudi Arabia, and it's a kind of different story in America where the arse is kind of falling out of kind of the kind of TV networks and how things is going to be. But it just seems to me like these kind of weird kind of setup shows are probably going to continue. You're going to have one of them and then one of a big showdown, and all that Saudi money is going to come to the fore. and it's probably it's kind of weird to me that this particular card is like British fighters, Australian, New Zealand fighters, and then kind of random guys filling in the gaps. But as we move forward, it's probably going to be that way for like top guys in America. As far as I can tell, we're going to find a way to get them over to Saudi Arabia, get them fighting, probably putting the big bucks up and make those fights happen. Don't know how you feel about that, but that's how I see it.
It was amazing just to have like AJ and Wilder, Eddie and Frank, like all of them at the same press
All on the
conference.
one stage.
Like, you just
Yeah,
thought
absolutely.
something could happen, like, you know, anything could happen, you know.
Money
fair
makes
play
the
to
sport
Sarah.
go around, though, doesn't it, Joe? It brings all these promoters together.
Yeah, exactly. It's all washed aside once the Saudi checkbook comes out, no doubt.
Absolutely. Dubois Miller, I know one of the boys was mentioning that. Joe, what do you think about that? Take Ames was talking on Monday night on the Seconds Out podcast. He seems to fancy Dubois. If Dubois has any confidence about him, surely he's going to punch too hard for Miller. But Miller can get into his head, talk a bit of shit. He is durable.
Yeah, I think the durability part is going to be key if he can, because the defense isn't great. So Dubois, you'd be pretty confident the ball is going to tee off on him at some stage. Whether he can stand up to that and keep coming is probably the be all. Because I think if that happens, I think Dubois is kind of fragile enough mentally that'll probably just suck the life and suck the fight out of him if he lands his Sunday best in Gerard Miller and he's still coming back talking his shit, you know.
What else have we got on there?
Whoa, hang on. Whoa. Dubois against Miller. Did you see Jarrell Miller against that big fucking Australian bouncer?
Big Daddy?
No, yeah, man. What's his name? That big fucking fat cunt that went to Chechnya and did the
Lucas Brown, yeah.
Oh, Jesus Christ, man. That was ridiculous. How anyone can watch that fight and have any doubt that Daniel Dubois is going to knock out fucking General Miller.
Jarrell fights down to the level of his opposition, though, Zico.
No. Fuck that, man. Steve, I'm going to ask you a question, right?
Big Daddy Brown could be on the card. He's the guy who
Hang
knocked
on.
out
Yeah.
Hang on. Steve,
Go on.
are you familiar with the dinosaurs?
Yeah.
Are you familiar with the Tyrannosaurus Rex?
Yeah.
See that fight with Jarrell Miller against Lucas Brown? It was like two fucking dinosaurs lumbering around the ring. They could not move their feet. They could not move their head. They could not move their body. All they could do was move their arms. And it was fucking ridiculous. There is no way on earth that this fat 330-pound bastard is not going to get knocked out by Daniel Dubois. I cannot fucking envisage the reality that does not happen.
The Saudis could have him hooked up to the latest and greatest of gear as well. You don't know what kind of
Man. No chance.
Jarrell Miller's
These are
going to
drug
come out
testing for this event.
Vindication t-shirt.
I hope Alicia can get one big enough for him. Yeah, I don't know, man. He's never been stopped before, has he, big baby? Come on now, Zico, man.
It's the best fight on the card for me. It's the most intriguing, most sort of like there's a guy in the Nutters chat, Terry, who makes a good case. I'm not here to criticise Terry from the Nutters chat, but Terry from the Nutters chat is absolutely slaughtering Daniel Dubois. And Zico from the Nutters chat is absolutely slaughtering Jarrell Miller. Like, we are both absolutely fucking convinced that the guy we think is going to lose is fucking useless. And it's just a matter of who's the most useless. But for me, there is no fucking way that Daniel Dubois does not absolutely splatter Jarrell Miller. He is fucking 333 pounds. Like, Like, how can a man that fat be expected to win against a semi-credible opponent?
I
That's
agree
the
with you. I
emotion there.
can't stand him. I've made my feelings known. I just think that he's fat, he's durable, he has a bit of activity about him. He could possibly get into Daniel's head. I don't know. I just see the fight differently, but I'd love to see Dubois splatter him. Absolutely, 100%.
I think I'm with you, Steve, on that one. To be honest with you, I think like we get people will keep giving him like paydays, even though he's made an absolute fucking mockery of himself twice. So I think the sooner he gets beaten and just goes out into the shadows, the better. You know what I mean? It would just be a joke opponent for people later down the line, hopefully. But yeah, we'll see. I'm going to wrap it up there. Apologies, I've got stuff going on. Steve's got to get away, and all. I know Joe said he was going out, and Zico's got to get his pizza order in. So I think
Poor Zico, never going to leave that down.
I know,
never going to have it down.
but it was golden. Don't worry, Zico. It was a golden moment. It was brilliant. But anyway, no, yeah. So honestly, I'll thank everyone for joining us tonight. It's been another great conversation.
Brilliant job, Danny. Thank you.
No problem. Sorry for those that couldn't jump on. I know Ames was looking to jump on, and we had Des that was looking to jump on as well. I mean, if everyone wants to carry on doing them, obviously give me a shout. I'm more than happy to get them set up and to let people have their say. But anyway, yeah, thanks for everyone that's joined us, and I hope everyone's enjoyed it. And hopefully we'll look forward to some good boxing action tomorrow night. Thanks all.
Cheers, Danny. All the best, mate. Take it easy.
Bye.
Bye.